All right. The first item on our agenda is action on the minutes of April 20th. Those are the minutes of our walk. Can I have a motion one way or another?
Motion, we accept the minutes.
I second that.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay, one abstention. And then the second item on, or actually the third item on our agenda is the minutes from April 24th.
In order to me,
Why don't you make a motion?
motion, we accept the meeting minutes from April 24.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ready?
I did say aye. Yep.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We're all, do you want to start this meeting over again? Because we're all kind of, yeah. We want to get up and stretch,
Get some coffee.
sing a song or something, and then, all right.
Jumping jack.
All right. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is review and discuss the draft RFP, including the scope and master plan components. Abby, why don't you kind of give us an overview of what we should be looking at here and
Sure.
how we got to this point?
Sure. So when we broke off into groups, Marty and I were tasked with developing the draft RFP. So at the last meeting, we pretty much had all the boilerplate items put together, and we were waiting on the scope of work and the / master plan component list. So since the last meeting, we did incorporate the master plan component list in here, and I'll get to that in a moment, and did refine some of the boilerplate items in some more detail. So just quickly walking through the format of the RFP, we have the legal notice, so we'll be requesting the proposals. That'll go in the Hartford Current, and posted on the DAS website. And I do have the dates highlighted because those are obviously subject to change depending upon our timeline here. And then moving on to page 3 of the draft, it starts out with the intent. So again, what we're looking for out of this plan and who we're seeking. So it is open to qualified firms and/or individuals, hereinafter referred to as consultant. And I do reference attachment A, the approximate study area, which I want to come back to in more detail. But again, that's intended to give the respondents an idea of the area that we're considering for the study. And then section 2 is just an overview of what or who the committee is. And again, I did include the goal, which was voted on and adopted by this committee. So the people responding have an idea of what we're working towards here. And then 3 is the scope of work. I think we should come back to that. 5 is the proposal content, and that kind of dovetails off the scope of work. And so I'll walk through that in a moment after we come back to the scope of work. And then section 6, looking at the proposal evaluation criteria. So we're going to look at their qualifications, the experience of key personnel, their technical competence, experience on similar projects, expected quality and description of deliverables, their proposed project timeline, and then we are requesting as part of this, their fee and terms. And then.
That's section 5, right?
Yes.
Abby, not 6. but
Yeah,
5.
sorry, did I say 6? Yeah,
Okay.
section
I just
5.
want to make sure I have the right copy.
And then section 6 is the process. So again, that's just details for the consultant, how many copies to submit, when they're due, when addenda will be posted. And then starting at 7 and down, we get into just schedule of work and then general requirements, this is pretty standard for the town when we issue RFPs, our insurance requirements, holding us harmless, freedom of information, award, who owns the work product, just noting that costs are to be, in preparing the proposal, are the responsibility of the consultant, and then any questions come to me. I do just want to point out, we had a question come in comment come in from the public about the insurance limits, and I did check with Kerma, the town's insurance provider, to look this over, and they made some adjustments, but it's substantially the same from what was put out there before. And so coming back to, I guess first off, does anyone have any questions about the overall structure of the RFP? Okay.
No, Abby, one question or comment. So the review of the RFP and the scope items that we were supposed to do by, I think, about the 15th of the month or so. I know we spoke, I can't remember the date, maybe it was the 16th, 17th, 18th, and reviewed what you had so far. Were any other comments come in?
No.
With respect to, that were incorporated?
No.
Okay, all right, so, okay, got it.
Or mine too late?
Well, no, so I got yours, but I thought they were already addressed,
Okay,
which I will get to in a moment.
excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a good time then to dive into the scope of work. So section 3 is the scope of work, and in the meeting packet, I included, for reference, both the Granby Center study scope that was passed on from the Board of Selectmen to this committee, and just reminding folks, this center scope that was ultimately passed on, it was a culmination of work and input from various boards and commissions, Development Commission, Planning and Zoning, Board of Selectmen, and that's ultimately how it ended up here in this format. So we have that, and then we have, I included it. We have the subgroup report with their draft list master plan components, which was generated in March. And then I did receive input from Mark as well. So I looked at all of those and kind of came up with what is now in section 3 for the RFP. And this is what Marty and I discussed in trying to organize it and kind of consolidate and make it a little bit broader. So it starts out, well, the complete project scope and deliverables may change as the process moves forward. At a minimum, the town expects the project to include the following. And we divided it up into 2 broad categories. So the first one is a baseline analysis and existing conditions, and the second, development plans and standards, I guess 3. And then we have recommended implementation strategy and timeline. So under the baseline analysis and existing conditions, we have 1, review all relevant documents, including plan of conservation development, strategic plan, affordable housing plan, et cetera. So we thought it was important to actually point this out to consultants. Oftentimes they'll do their own research anyway. However, highlighting it here I thought was important. 2, looking at demographics. 3, market analysis and regional development trends. So this is where they're going to look at what's going on in the center currently and regionally. 4, existing land use, including property ownership and development patterns. And so this really gets at identifying who key property owners and stakeholders are in the center, what the current uses are, because we've identified and discussed how a lot of the land is privately owned. So as we move forward with the study, it's going to be important that we figure out how to get those folks on board. 5, review and evaluate the current zoning regulations. 6, infrastructure assessment, including transportation, and we call out vehicles, pedestrian, bicycle, and public transportation, and utilities, so electric, sewer, water, gas, and telecommunications. 7, identify opportunities and constraints, which is just a natural kind of summary of all that information. And then looking at the second broad section, development standards and plans. So that's kind of all the research and background information that ideally they would look at and capture and pull into the plan. And this is kind of what we want of the outcomes of that. So the first, recommendations regarding land use and built environment standards, including zoning regulations, architectural standards, historic considerations, and preservations. 2, town center design standards and recommendations, including streetscape design, lighting, signage, and other infrastructure improvements. And kind of the distinction between 1 and 2, as Marty and I were putting this together and thinking it through, is 1 is more policy regulation based, and it's targeted at or towards private property owners, whereas 2 is kind of what you see more in the public realm, which is what the town could potentially have more control over, probably in partnership with some of the property owners, but that's how we broke that up. And then 3, transportation and connectivity plans, including public, vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian systems and parking. So this would speak to, comments we've heard about, sidewalk connections, bike paths and facilities, and municipal parking potentially. 4, town green function and design plan. I thought it was important to include this because the town green is the one publicly owned open space in the center. And it's also specifically referenced in the plan of conservation and development of looking at that area in some more detail. And I think some of the public input that was received during the workshops kind of spoke to elements that could function well in the town green. And then lastly, recommended implementation strategy and timeline. So that's taking, what they've done and suggesting how we would move forward with implementing the recommendations and looking at the time frame at which we could do that.
Okay.
Thoughts?
It's genius.
So we got this. What? No, I just wanted to make sure we're done.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
I like where we're headed. I don't have nothing specific at this particular time.
Okay. Meg?
Yeah, good work. I do have a question. When we say design plan, would that include renderings and sort of that
Yes.
visual communication piece?
Yes.
I think is so important.
Right.
Because I think that's when the public will also have a back and forth dialogue if they can visually understand it.
Right. And so, yeah, that
Versus,
would,
how site plans and floor plans.
yeah. No, so that would be the intent for both the transportation and connectivity plans and then the design plan, actually coming up with concrete, perhaps engineered with some of them, but then renderings too, where we could then take and apply for grant funding. Because all of that work would have been done upfront, designing all of that.
And, I'm sorry.
Oh.
The actual design planning actually encompasses all 4 of them. There'll be within design and, putting up those whiteboards, all 4 categories will be on display.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but it's true as long as as long as we don't feel the need to be more specific, like these are the kind of
I would hope
moves
not.
of. You'd hope not, but I've seen some that don't go as far as you'd like it to. And therefore, it's a lot of words and not a lot of visual communication. So, yeah, we would hope.
Right.
But yes, good work.
Anything else, Meg?
I'm good at the moment.
Looks like John may have joined. John? Saving myself for last.
Is he muted?
So, you didn't know.
Were you able to follow so far where we're at?
Just got.
Oh, okay. Were you, John, were you able to review the draft RFP and any detailed, we're gonna try to finalize it tonight to get it ready to get it on the street, so did you have any comments or suggestions?
Nothing material. There was the one suggestion I made yesterday, but other than that, no.
You know what he's talking about?
I remember seeing it, but I don't remember.
Okay. We'll make sure that,
It might not be in this category. It was about approaching businesses, and the other one was about, was it budget? What was it, John? What was the other one?
There was a comment that adding in the scope to ask, to include the budget, and I think that usually becomes a limiting factor more than it becomes a benefit to having that in there. So it's just otherwise the content and the format of the scope is fine.
okay. Okay, so let's talk first about I have a couple specific questions. So, on the area, the study area, everybody's okay with that on Exhibit A, those boundaries?
Yeah, I think it reflects the workshops pretty well too in the public input.
Okay. My only question is, should we call it the commercial core or should we call it the town center core? Commercial to me seems the potential to be a little bit confusing since there will be commercial in the orange too, right?
Yeah, and I guess I took that from the zoning regulations because it's the commercial center.
Commercial center.
So that's where but I understand your point.
But did you include it in the commercial center comments and center edge?
Some of the properties on the north, yes, is center and across, yeah.
Is there a downside? Because one of the things they're reviewing is those regs anyway, right? Is there a downside to changing the word commercial here to town center since our public is used to us using the terms town center?
I also like that because it reflects that this can also be, according to the feedback they gave, a very mixed use area. Sometimes commercial makes us think just businesses.
Anybody have any objection to making that change?
Town center works.
So you'll have to make it on the first, in paragraph 1, 2, when you're describing attachment A. See it at the very
Yep.
end? Are you okay with that, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think you guys did a really good job of taking the components of the master plan that we developed and rephrasing them. There's only one that I want to ask about. I don't remember which one, whether it's Eric or I that suggested or both of it. Are we comfortable? One of the things I was hoping we would get to is some sort of recommendations on potential incentive programs that we might be able to utilize to implement the plan. I didn't see that in here. Is there?
No, it's not.
Do you think it should be?
Yeah, so like what exactly are you thinking? Or do you want to leave it broad and have them look
No,
at?
I think it should be broad. Something that says just what I scratched out was an analysis of potential incentive programs that might be available to assist in implementing the plan, something like that.
Yeah, like for example, business improvement district, or
Yeah.
maybe they know of a better one.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll put that under recommended implementation strategy and timeline as a specific
That's okay with me.
subpoint.
Yep. You want me to repeat what I said?
Yes, please.
You can wordsmith it however you want. Analysis of potential incentive programs. I actually wrote incentive/programs to assist in implementing the plan.
Okay.
And you can wordsmith. The other comment I have on this section may not be right for this section is just, if you're comfortable, I'm comfortable, but I want to make sure that one of the things they use as a starting point is the work we've already done with the public. right?
Yes, so I want to get there.
Okay.
Because we do have it in here.
Okay, where is it?
So under proposal content, so the proposal should include the following, and
What page are you on?
so now we're on page 4.
Okay,
All right, so the first section, cover letter, executive summary, include, name, address, phone number, email, and the name of the principal contact person. On B, consultant qualifications, description of the firm, including size, location, number, nature, professional staff to be assigned, and experience and qualifications of the staff. 2, description of relevant project examples that have been completed within the last 5 years in communities with similar characteristics and size to Granby. I just want to, before we get to your point, Mark, I wanted to point out that I know at the last meeting, there was discussion about wanting to add some limitations to similar regions or, similar area to here. Marty and I talked about this a lot, and we actually thought that there might be some value if they provide kind of an overall portfolio of some other projects they've done, because I don't know, there could be creative ideas that could work here. So I don't know, we want it to be a little bit broader and not limit it to just the Northeast.
Yeah, we want to look at the talent we want to look at all their talents, not just a particular region, but look at, the talent of the whole firm. Yeah.
I'm okay with that because we're going to know when we see whether
Right.
they gave us anything that would work in New England or not.
3, list of at least 3 references. 4, a list of sub-consultants, if any, to be used. And then C, project approach. So this is where we get into kind of the work that's been done to date. So 1, the consultant's understanding of the services to be provided. 2, description of the proposed project plan, including the tasks or project components the consultant believes are necessary for completion of the project and key deliverables. 3, description and manner in which public and stakeholder input will be sought and how they will be engaged in the process. It should be noted that the committee has conducted 2 initial workshops and released a survey to gather public input. However, it is expected the consultant will propose and facilitate public and stakeholder input as part of the study process. So here we tried to make it clear that there has been some work to date. There would be an expectation that the consultant would build on that. If this needs to be strengthened, though, to add something about,
What do you think, Megan?
So I'm actually seeing that in the review all, I think what we have here works, but I wonder if we can also add it to review all relevant documents. We've got plan of conservation development, strategic plan, affordable housing plan, because it's directly applicable.
Oh, that's a good point. See what you're
That's a
saying?
very relevant document.
That's a good point.
Stakeholder feedback materials.
Right, or data collected so far.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
And we can have it in both places because I think that doesn't hurt.
Right, and the survey will be complete by then, right? Is the deadline on the
Yeah, it
survey
should
is the 31st?
It should be, yeah.
It'll be complete by then.
Yeah, it's historical, it's done, okay.
So, John, instead of keep stopping to interrupt you, I'm going to expect you to yell when you want to be heard. So interrupt us, okay?
So I'll back up a paragraph, and the one relative to the incentivization, I think it would be, rather than just examples, I think it would be helpful if we're going to provide examples of incentives that actually did something. Like, because there's a million different tips, there's a million different type of incentive programs. We want to see evidence of a community implemented this as an incentive and led to this outcome, rather than it was just notional and, hey, you can do these things. I think it would be helpful of examples in communities where they know of incentive programs that actually led to a difference.
Maybe evidence-based could be put in there.
Or even XYZ community implemented X and it drew in Y for changes in their central downtown area.
Okay, Abby, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you start to get into incentives and grants, grant programs, bonding, you're starting to now look at the municipal side,
Correct.
not the consultant side
Right.
of, so they could comment that a municipality was successful at getting funding or some type of program. As far as being specific about it, I don't know how they would drill down too much into that.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Marty. These programs can be so specific and they can, a lot of them are wildly successful and a lot of them are wildly failures, right?
Right.
And whether they were successes or failures had nothing to do probably with the consultant. So I would think that what I was hoping for is this will test how deeply they thought about implementing our plan, is to give us some examples that they have seen used or that might be available to us. Then during the process, we can either do our own research on whether they were successful or not, and/or we can question them on where to look, that kind of thing.
Right.
That could be extremely limiting in the terms of the responses we get if we get too demanding there in terms of getting them to evaluate incentive programs for us, because that's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and a lot of it's based on the qualifications of the municipality.
Right.
Whether they're successful in getting particular grants or funding.
And hopefully they wouldn't list it if it wasn't evidence-based and research-based. Hopefully they would.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
We're going to know it when we see it
Yeah.
again, right?
Right, it's all going to be current plans that are out there. They're not going to cite something that was done 10 years ago.
Right.
That plan or that program could be, long gone.
Yes, and if they come in and decide something that was successful in New Mexico, we're going to know they didn't put a lot of thought into it.
Right.
Yeah, okay. You comfortable with that, John?
Sure.
All right. Again, I'm just gonna keep talking, you gotta interrupt. There's nobody in the room and nobody else on Zoom, so don't be afraid, just plain interrupt.
Okay.
We did use the word stakeholder, which kind of encompasses
All right,
quite a number. And John, this is also for you, because I think in your email, you questioned whether reaching out to the business community was covered. So that's kind of covered under the term stakeholder?
Yeah, that tracks back to a conversation in the last meeting that, who and when to do the business and business property owner engagement. And there was a thought that we would allow the consultant to develop that, whether the committee did it or not, or had the consultant do it, had the consultant develop like that mechanism or that criteria. I just think that adds significant pile of time to glean that information. But if the rest of the committee doesn't feel that way, then that's fine.
well, I think we have it covered. So I agreed with what you said and what we were talking about. Part of what we're gonna pay this consultant to do is take what we already did. A lot of it is going to be very useful in them getting to where we want them to be. But then to identify for us where we had gaps, where there were questions that we may not have asked, or where they want to probe to get more information from our constituents to finalize a plan, which will include the stakeholders we haven't talked to. And it might include the stakeholders we already have talked to, but we may be missing some data that they find relevant. So the way you currently drafted it, I'm especially with Meg's suggestion that we put the data that we've already collected as a specific thing they will review. I'm comfortable that the RFP works for what we're looking for. I am. But
I guess if we talked with the businesses first or gathered input from them, much the way we did with the public, then it would probably say, also review what we
Right.
spoke about. But we don't have that and we haven't done it, so I don't want to slow anything down by doing it. But if there feels like enough time and we could give them an initial report, like we did the public feedback, that's a possibility. I don't know if that's the middle.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have plenty, I'm sorry, I think we're gonna have plenty of time to do that again, because the 3A here, doing the baseline data, they're gonna be doing a certain amount of data analytics about our businesses. What are they doing? Where are they located? What markets are they serving? You know, those kind of things. That information should lead us to having, I think, more intelligent, efficient conversations with our businesses. Once we have the data that they gathered, and to John's point, this would require them to make a recommendation to us on how to approach the businesses to get what we think we need more, right?
Right, and also, what's going to be important for them, and hopefully they're going to do it, is that their public engagement will be more focused. So, for example, one of their public engagement workshops or something could be primarily based on zoning regulations, or something, you know, much more spearheaded, where what we've done so far is pretty wide, but it's more on the aesthetic side. It's more on what we wanted to see, what the vision is.
The vision.
So now we're going to get more into the, regulatory aspect, talk about infrastructure, those types of things. Because a lot of the more what we want it to look like stuff, a lot of it is in their kind of boilerplate anyways. I mean, it's, of the list that's been put together, a lot of it is in their toolbox already when they plan for town center areas, benches and lighting and so forth. And then there's the aspect, of course, of spinning down into how many benches, their strategic location, and that's even another whole part of it. So I hope that what they're going to do is, when they start engaging the public, is to really start honing in on different aspects of this whole process.
That's what I think we've been expecting all along. We gathered the data to help collect a vision, give them, just like you said, the big picture.
Right.
I personally hope the next round of public engagement is much more specific. Here's a draft of this, here's a draft of that. What do you think specifically about this draft? Did it match what you told us in the beginning, or is it in the ballpark? Yeah.
Right.
And that's how all research works, right? You kind of drill down on the gaps in the research, and we told the public too, and then we'll have groups based on this, more focused groups.
Right. And an important thing is going to be is that we have to come to the table with something for the public.
Right.
So we have to begin to show them things. Say, what do you think? How does this look? And to actually do some preliminary designing of these areas, or some thoughts and ideas on zoning regulations, infrastructure, things like that. So.
The last note I had on this page, are we good there so far? Is, I think it's very important that we ask them, I don't know exactly how to write this for doing the guru, to give us a sample town center that they plan, that they've done, that they think is close to what we're looking for. Does that make sense? Is that articulated?
So we do ask, so if you look under consultant qualifications, which is B2, so we ask for a description of relevant project examples that have been completed. Respondents are encouraged to provide links to where their project portfolio or plans may be viewed publicly. Is that getting at what you're asking, Mark?
The risk in giving a sample too early on in the process is not giving them enough time to absorb information, to get to know the town. And I wouldn't recommend doing it because they're open to making a misstep. They might suggest something because it's early on in the process, they just wanted to get us something, and it's going to be an oops. And we don't necessarily want that.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm looking for. So let's, I get
Want
what,
a draft?
What?
Initial draft?
No,
go ahead.
I think it has benefit to. I think it has benefit to do exactly that. To say that to the way Abby characterized it, please give us links to your portfolio, representative examples of other projects that you've done, so we can see the depth of their work, their work output, what those final projects look like in similar situated communities. I think it's really illustrative of the knowledge and ability of a consulting company to do that.
Yeah, so that's, now we're drilling down on exactly what I'm talking about. So if we can just make sure, I'm not talking about creating something new for us. What I would like to ask them is, give us a link to the plan that you have done that you think is actually closest to the criteria we're looking for. It could be for Toronto or whatever, right? So that we can see a finished product that they think was close to what we were looking for. Does that make sense? That's what I'm trying to accomplish. If it doesn't make sense, just tell me it doesn't make any sense.
It's a precedent. It doesn't mean it's exact. I think what you're saying is like, give us a precedent of your work, an example. That's what they usually do.
So we have B2. Should that language be modified?
We have to do that with some.
Relevant projects.
So
Right.
instead of respondents
Okay.
are encouraged, respondents shall provide a link, so they have to do it?
Well, I'd feel better with shall, but yeah. Look, I'm going to reveal,
Yes.
and this will get posted on
Yeah,
Facebook tomorrow. I'm going to reveal my prejudice in this process, assuming that this committee, but I won't talk about this in a second, is the one that's going to interview and hire the consultant. The first thing I'm going to look at is what they've done. The actual booklet
absolutely.
they've done for somebody else. And I'm going, is that even close to what we're looking for? Because if it's not, I don't care how qualified you are on paper. If that end product isn't what we think we were looking for, then with me, you're not going to get far. That's what I'm trying to accomplish, is that we have that information.
And that's a pretty standard. It's a pretty standard thing. Like all the proposals we do, it's like, show us your work that is representative of the work we're asking you to do, and we give them some examples that match what the scope of that project is, so they can decide if that's what they're looking for. So I don't think it's anything out of the norm. I think changing that to a shall provide rather than are encouraged to provide would be beneficial.
There you go. Well,
We don't want to, and part of it, look, I don't think we want to be anybody's first project either.
yeah, no, understood. If they showed us no links, then Abby's probably not even going to bring that to us.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want someone to help design your living room who can show that they've done a couple living rooms.
Marty, you were going to say something?
No, well, what I was going to say, but it was kind of answered. I mean, I thought you also meant the end product of what the municipality did, so actual photographs of.
No.
No, because that's totally out of there.
No,
Okay.
nope.
So,
Yeah, because they can't control what they.
right, they can't control it.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable if we change that to shall?
Sure. No problem.
And that is that the process we're anticipating, is that we get all the responses to the extent that we're going to do interviews? It's this committee that will interview and select a consultant?
Yes. So under process, the third one, so proposals received by the town will be reviewed for completeness and clarity. They will be evaluated in accordance with the proposal evaluation criteria above. So I anticipate just doing like a score sheet or whatever.
Yes.
And the consultants to be interviewed, if any, will be determined. The town may also wish to conduct additional interviews prior to making a final award. So, yeah, it leaves it like a little open-ended, but.
So my last thoughts are just around timing, but before we get into those, is everybody comfortable now? Any other recommended changes or suggestions? With this caveat, I think I talked to you about this a little bit. That our attorney will look at this one more time, I'm sure, so some of this may change a tiny bit. I trust Abby 100% not to allow any be substantive changes, but, we are working on a more streamlined process overall for the town in terms of doing RFPs. So that's going to get, this will get looked at with that same lens, just to make sure that it's not inconsistent with what we're thinking about, right? Okay, so timing. I think we should approve this with the knowledge that some of the dates you said in here might be slightly different, and let me explain why. So the Board of Selectmen, I expect, at our meeting on Monday, is going to begin the process, what we're calling Phase 2 of ARPA allocations. We have some, not additional funds to allocate, funds that are not yet committed to projects because we've completed projects and we still have funds left. The funding of this study is in that list, okay? We've taken no action on it, and we won't take action Monday. We won't. The process we're contemplating is introduce it Monday, give everybody a couple weeks to look at it, ask questions, give the public an opportunity to look at it, and possibly approve it 17th. That's our date, June 17th. So we will know hopefully on June 17th whether funding is set aside for this. So we just kind of have to keep that in mind, I think. That may make this slip a little bit, may not. I mean, I really haven't tried to, in my head, wrap those dates around your dates, but that may have this slip a little bit. The other thing for both of you to note, because this probably needs to be done in the next day or two, is out of abundance of caution, I think we should put on Monday's agenda an action item for the Board of Selectmen to authorize you to issue the RFP, right? Just so that that's clear. Then you have that authority on Monday. We're processing through the funding at the same time. And you can kind of do this in a way. I'm advocating that the committee give Abby some authority and the flexibility of the dates to maximize responses, to maximize the potential to get good responses.
So that's, I have a placeholder as an issue date of June 3rd, which is Monday, and a deadline of July 12th. And I understand there's the holiday in there, which is why I pushed it out a little bit.
The June
So that was the
3rd June
intent.
3rd date and issue date was, you mentioned, kind of coincided with also the board selecting meeting date. So maybe that should be the 4th or 5th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll slide a day or two. I mean, I don't want to predict what the Board of Selectmen will do, but I don't know why there would be any objection to authorizing you to issue the RFP. The funding won't be in place then, but who, you know, but,
Is there any expectation, understanding of what this, you said the funding's in place about? Do we have any idea of what somebody might charge for this service?
I believe we are going to plug in $100,000 into the line. I'm hopeful that it doesn't cost us that much, but,
Okay.
so, is that consistent with,
I think 90's in there.
well, there you go. That Walshy's already cut 10 out. I love that guy. I love that guy.
9 years in one fiscal year.
Total.
90 in total. Hope we're not shy.
Well, so you have to start somewhere in terms of us allocating ARPA funds. So I think 90 is probably a good place to start. What we have I'm digressing a little, but what we have to have done from an ARPA standpoint on the Board of Selectmen is the funds have to be, I always get the term wrong, but they have to be committed by the end of this year.
Or we lose the funding.
Obligated. Then we have like a couple more years to actually spend it. right? So there'll be some flex in there, because what's going to happen with whatever list the Board of Selectmen approves, and I'm just speaking off the top of my head, there's probably, I don't know, there's 10 or 12 things that we're talking about potentially funding. They're all in the same category where we're just giving a best guesstimate on what we think the cost would be. So those numbers are all going to move around a little. So if we get a proposal back, says it's 70, then we move 20 from this to something else. And if it says it's 110, we've got to consider moving from somewhere else to this. So if we're going to use ARPA funds, that's the only way we can do it. Right. So I'm personally comfortable with approving this with the notion that the dates will be adjusted based on your discretion. Is everybody else comfortable with
I
that?
think it's a really smart idea, because you're going to be the main point of contact and know everything, so yes.
All right. Anything else? So do you have everything you need to finalize this and kind of push it through the, whatever remaining process that the town needs to be done? So I think to make it official, I will ask for a motion to approve the draft RFP with the changes we've noted here.
So moved.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Count you as a no. All right. All right. Next item on our agenda then was to review the public comments received since the last meeting. Were there any?
Yep.
Yes. We had 3. It's the last page.
Oh, the first one looks more, I'm sorry.
One of them Abby
Oh, yeah,
already, one of them already Abby addressed, which was the insurance.
Yes.
Oh. So it's just been that long since we got it.
I wonder if a lot of these emails we receive, I could put in, maybe in one of the spreadsheets, the master spreadsheet, where all the other dump your bucket is, just so, I'm picturing someone going through all of this, and it might be helpful to have it all in one place, but you can decide.
Okay.
Well, I think they are all in one place, right? You just pulled out these 3 that are, you're talking about these here?
Yeah, but if we want to integrate them with the public input from the
Oh.
workshops and the surveys, so it's a nice, clean, big copy when we're asking to go over it.
Well, won't you have to pick and choose though which ones you're going to, because someone might send us an email about our process or someone spoke wrong or someone's trying to correct you or something like that. So you don't want to put that in the bucket.
In the what? Put it in
You
what?
don't want to put that in your study bucket, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think that they're included in the meeting packet and then therefore part of the public record and relatively easy to go back to look at if we need to calibrate what we're doing, why we're doing it. I don't know if we need to, do we need to put them all in one repository? If there was like a gajillion of them, then we were gonna have to go back and search, but it's been pretty manageable so far, so I'm content with the process unless somebody sees otherwise.
Yeah. So, yeah. Are we concerned about the public being able to find them or what we're handing the consultant?
I brought it up for what we're handing the consultant, as we're saying review documents, but I guess that would be all the minutes too. But we're saying
Yeah.
review stakeholder documents.
So I don't
So-
think, over the course of time, over the whole course that we've been inviting people to send us email, we haven't gotten more than 30, right?
No.
So,
Not even.
So it seems to me for that purpose, there's no downside to erring on the side of caution, which is give the consultant everything. They're gonna-
Yeah,
they're
I was
gonna
just
know-
saying, should we make it neat in one place? But
Yeah,
that's more.
they're gonna know, well,
semantics.
I don't need to focus on the insurance discussion, you know. So, yeah.
And some of the dump your bucket, they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Nah, not relevant, relevant.
Right, but we also have to be cognizant of answering these emails, or if someone's expecting, if someone's sending us something, and they want it to be brought up at the next meeting, or commented on, we gotta make sure we do that, we just don't
Understood,
dump
So we'll make it
somewhere,
available to
and then
understood.
we gotta make sure it's, they're looked at.
Understood. And so I think we've handled that because I think the email system sends out an automatic thank you for your comment. And then we haven't been asked at all by anybody to address the comment. So if I got asked tomorrow, I would say every comment is included in the packet we're giving our consultant. And so, I don't, are you good? Are we saying the same thing? We're back to where we started this meeting. Right? All my
Right,
answers.
yes, but also the consultant may be looking to us for an answer. Something that we dish to them may not have, how do you guys feel about this? Is this more of a committee question, or a committee?
They can come back to us.
I think that would be collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're good, once we hire the consultant, that we're managing,
Two-way dialogue.
right? So they'll come to the meeting, they'll say, we need answers on these things, and we'll give them the
Right.
answer. All right?
I just want it to be neat and organized for them because we want them to read it and do it.
Yep. All right, so I think what we decided for purposes of email, since there's not a huge number of them, we'll include that in the entire packet that we give the hired consultant. Anything else on public comments? So we should discuss whether we need to meet this month, next month in June, or not. Don't know that there'll be a lot to do. We won't have the RFPs back.
No.
So do we want to just make it official that we do not intend to meet in June?
There's nothing to do.
And that we will, for now, keep our regularly scheduled meeting in July?
Which is.
So question though, right now, and I don't plan on shifting that date too much, the proposals would be due July 12th. Would we want to meet sooner than the 31st to evaluate it? I know the summer gets to be a little hard with vacations. But because I'm thinking if we wait until the 31st to score everything, and then we want to interview folks, then it's pushing it into August, and it needs to go back to the Board of Selectmen to make an award. So it just eats up a lot of time.
Are you doing the initial scoring?
Well, I guess that's a question, because if we, like when we think about that, I could just put together a packet and everyone could score on their own, and then we could just have a meeting to go over the scores. Like I think it's appropriate that the committee review and score the proposals.
Correct, but when you're scoring, meeting all the requirements, and we're sitting down at a meeting, and if we have 6 of them to do, it can be time consuming. Because you have to look at every proposal, see if they meet all the criteria. So if an initial one is done, kind of outline to kind of give it a quick little grade on how it fits in, and then we really scrutinize it as a group.
So you're saying keep the meeting on the,
I just, from my perspective, I think Abby's got a good take on it. I think we hold before our regular scheduled meeting, so, all of the proposals go to all committee members, have the opportunity to review them, jot down some notes. We have the meeting discussion, pick who we're gonna interview them, and I mean, otherwise it's gonna drag, because if you just wait till the end of the month, are we gonna do interviews at the end of the month? If we meet twice in July, we could have a general idea who we want to invite them to the end of July meeting, have a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for August, and can make an award so they can start in September. Otherwise, you're talking about starting it later September, early October at best.
It's an aggressive schedule.
Well, I
So,
kind of agree with Abby, maybe meeting earlier in July, so I'm with you there.
yeah,
And then again on July 31st.
Well, let's start at the beginning of the process. So I think I'm halfway with what you were saying. I think Abby should screen them for compliance. Like if one was non-responsive, just take it out. And then give us the remaining ones with a score sheet. And I think I agree with Abby there. You could send those to us electronically. And then we could schedule a meeting. Everybody's come prepared. So you've done the homework while you're eating dinner or whatever. You come prepared with your score sheet. And then we can, at a public meeting, we can go through our scoring and go from there. So I don't have any objection to the meeting. What I think is safer for us is to keep the 31st meeting and try to find an additional date. If we end up not needing one or both dates, we can just cancel. So, I know I have to be out of town on the week of the 15th. So there you go. That's,
I will be out of town then as well.
you'll be out of town when?
Well, sorry, I'm pulling up the dates now, but the week of July 15th, I believe.
Now, I could, depending on when we do it, I could probably participate by Zoom that week. The following week, I could do it.
So if I get the proposals would be due July 12th. I would screen them Monday, figure out if there are any that are non-responsive, if you will, and then send them out. So how long do you think you all would need to go through them if you get them Monday, at like end of day Monday?
The 15th?
Yeah.
Pressure's on, Abby.
I mean, that's a hell of a,
I think that's unrealistic.
I do too.
Well, for me, but I mean, it's Monday. It's fine.
I don't,
So, I mean, we might naturally just land on the 31st.
I think that's on controlling factors. The controlling factor is how many do we get? Like, if we get 4, it becomes really, really easy. If we get 14, it becomes harder. But one of the, like, is it to keep the 31st? Could we do 24 and 31?
I'm not here the week of the 22nd to the 26th, but I'm not a voting member.
yeah, I don't,
And I'm gone the week of the 15th, the same week you're gone, just to confirm. But Zooming is an option for you then.
I just say we wait till the 31st.
31st.
I don't see any reason to rush it. I'll have back-to-back meetings again that week, planning and zoning and this.
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think I don't want to rush the last couple of weeks, getting everything we've done to find a consultant. And although we want to get them started as soon as we can, there's,
That'll give us, just about 2 weeks for us to take the time to review and,
So we would come on July 31st, everyone would have reviewed, scored them. We'd have a conversation here about anyone we want to bring in for an interview, and then look at scheduling that early in August.
Yep.
And then, so shoot for a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen at the end of August or beginning of September.
yeah, I think that's probably better.
Okay.
Now, the only other, again, not taking away from what we already said, you can make the schedule fit. If we're going to do that anyway, and you want to give people a week longer to respond, right? So we'll let you figure.
Okay.
We'll let you figure that out. We've had a mixed track record recently of getting responses to our RFPs.
I was going to ask how many we expect or what you've seen with other projects.
just curves. Then you pull them out for curve.
Yeah, no.
No,
No.
we've done we did an
Board of
RFP to hire a consultant to find our town manager. The first one went
Right.
0. We did an RFP to hire a
Broker.
broker for freshies that nobody responds. So,
There was a plan for curves that went on RFP.
yeah, but that one was long enough ago and different than, I don't know.
I see.
I'm just saying I should have just kept my mouth shut. Recently, we've had kind of mixed.
Yes.
It's hard to figure out because my own personal instinct is people are really busy. Every community in the country is trying to spend ARPA funds. And so consultants are picking and choosing, I think, what they're responding. That's so. All right, so what we have a consensus is we do not need a June meeting. So we'll send out a cancellation notice of that whenever the appropriate timing is. We'll keep the July meeting. And once you kind of firmed up the schedule, maybe you could just send everybody a email that says, here's what I think the schedule is going to look like. When responses are due and when you might expect from me the scoring criteria, that kind of stuff. All right. Everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
Sounds good.
I think that covered the action items for the next meeting, right? Anything else? There's no public session. Does anybody have any? I'll call for the public session, but there's no one in the room or on Zoom. Anybody else have anything?
Did you want to say anything about your initial thoughts on the survey and the input you got?
It has been interesting, and there's been an ebb and flow in responses. The data appears consistent with the in-person conversation, so that's been interesting. A little bit more distilled data report for the next meeting or as soon as it closes the survey. But I think between the in-person survey and the online survey, the sample size is great enough that we can make assumptions, generalized across the community, because there's been some width to it, and when you look at what it takes for a statistically significant sample, I think we're really close to that. So the committee should feel comfortable utilizing that data as a representative sample of the feelings of the community. So more to follow.
And maybe an item we all need to do is read through all the comments and the data there too. Because I know he just gave it to us yesterday, right? So I haven't even gone over everything.
From the survey, you mean?
Yeah, from the survey. Because it's comprehensive and pretty easy to at least.
You're saying, but
So when would that be ready for the committee to review?
John, you said what we had last night, right?
yeah, so I will, once the survey closes the end of the month, so that would be the entire month of May that it's been open, I'll close the survey, I will download the data, so I don't even know so early next week, it should go to I'll send it to Adam, she can send it to the committee so everybody has it, and it will be in two pieces. One, the summary data that shows kind of the trends and the graphs, and then the other packet will be all responses, so the committee has everything. So it'll be something digestible and it's something really, really broad.
Okay,
And then we'll read it all before the next time we meet.
okay.
Yes.
You good with that? You good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I will accept a motion to adjourn. Good work, everybody.
Second?
All those in favor?
So
Aye. Good work, Abby. Good work, Marty. Good work, Meg.